So we're going to start with the land acknowledgement and the statement that Poulsbo is committed to being a welcoming, diverse, and equitable community where all people can access tools and opportunities to improve their quality of life, allowing them to reach their full potential. During its meeting, the Poulsbo City Council will use this lens to inclusively view its discussions and actions. And for the September 10th, 2025 meeting we're having, I'll call on Councilwoman Crowe for the statement.
Poulsbo is located on the ancestral lands of the indigenous Suquamish people, for whom this place was known as Tuk Tuk Lot, or the land of the vine maples. And here's a quote by Chief Seattle. "Every part of the soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. Every hillside, every valley, every plain and grove has been hollowed by some sad or happy event in days long vanished." Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Crowe. If everyone rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, we have the agenda to approve, and we have one amendment tonight. We're going to have two proclamations to be read, and I would like to move them before public comment out of courtesy for our guests. Everything else stands as is, so I would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Deputy Mayor, move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll go around the table. Councilwoman Crowe.
Crowe, aye.
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Lipdahl, aye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, Council. I will proceed with the reading of the proclamations. The first one is going to be in recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. Proclamation, whereas Hispanic and Latino people represent a vibrant and flourishing part of the diverse growing community that has been instrumental to the development of Washington since the Spanish exploration of the Olympic Peninsula. Their histories and cultures stretch across centuries, and their contributions of those who are from and come to our shores today in search of their dreams continue to add new chapter in our state's history. And whereas Hispanic and Latino people serve honorably in our armed forces through dedication and sacrifice, defending the values we hold dear, and increased entrepreneurial spirit, driving economic growth, transform industries with creativity and resilience to produce a thriving economy. Our elected officials, public servants, essential workers, agricultural workers, teachers, and leaders, and have led and inspired movements that have made our state more equal and more just. And whereas many Latin Americans trace their roots to the rich tapestry of cultures and histories of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, including the Arawaks, the Aztecs, Inca, Mayan, Taino, and other trace their roots to the Spanish or to the Africans who were enslaved and built our country. And whereas in observance of National Hispanic Heritage Month, we pay tribute to the rich heritage of the Hispanic and Latino community with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs, and celebrate its countless achievements. Now, therefore, I and Mayor Becky Erickson signed the proclamation, Mayor of the City of Poulsbo, Washington, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2025 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Poulsbo, and encourage all citizens to join us, the City Council, and the Mayor in recognizing this important initiative dated this 8th day of September, 2025. And a second proclamation, and at the end of which I'll call up Linda Pawson, the Director of the Poulsbo Historical Society, to receive it. Proclamation. Whereas Liberty Bay provided early Scandinavian settlers with opportunities for fishing and boat building, forming the foundation of Poulsbo's community. And whereas Poulsbo's location on the bay made steamships vital to their early growth and connection to the Puget Sound. And whereas commercial fishing and canneries, including the Pacific Coast Codfish Company, the largest on the West Coast, drove Poulsbo's economy and employed many residents. And whereas Poulsbo has been and continues to be the home to independent commercial fishermen, and at one point numbered over 80 vessels that fish for salmon, halibut, and cod. And whereas other maritime industries flourished in the city of Poulsbo, including boat builders Chris Haugen, Martin Bjormeland, Ronald Young in his basement shop on Front Street, and many others. And whereas the members of the Poulsbo Historical Society identified the need to share the heritage and artifacts from the Pacific Coast Cod Fishing Company and from many of the commercial fishermen and boat builders that resided in Poulsbo, so that future generations could see, touch, and learn about the maritime heritage that plays a large part in the history of Poulsbo. And whereas the community came together and established the Poulsbo Maritime Museum, whose grand opening was September 12th, 2015. Now, therefore, I, Rebecca Erickson, Mayor of the City of Poulsbo, Washington, do hereby proclaim September 12th, 2025 as Maritime Day in the City of Poulsbo, and encourage all citizens to join us, the City Council and Mayor, in recognizing the importance of the maritime heritage in building the City of Poulsbo and celebrating a decade of the Poulsbo Maritime Museum. Congratulations, Poulsbo Historical Society. And the city is proud to present this to the Poulsbo Historical Society. Linda, if you'd like to share a remark, perhaps.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you all, council members, other partners, many of whom are here tonight who have helped make this possible. And I would really like to recognize all of our volunteers, our staff, our board members, and our great maritime supporters who are here tonight, and thank them all for making this possible.
I have to make one comment. When I first moved here from Montana in the 80s and bought my first home on 3rd, it turned out to be the Ronald Young house directly up the hill under the church. And in trying to repair the old oil fueler, I found in the wall a stack of letters to the Young family written in the 1920s, a whole stack. So it brings back many memories. I thank you all for the work you've done to preserve our heritage for us and for future generations. Incredibly important. Join me one more time in a round of applause. Thank you. Is there any comment from council would like to add?
Well, we should probably highlight that they're having a celebration, I believe, at 5 p.m. Friday, correct? At the Maritime Museum on Front Street. So the community is invited. We hope to see you all there.
Very well said. Thank you, Councilman McVeigh. We're going to move on now to public comment. And I will read. Oral comments can be made in person. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes, unless additional time is granted by council. As a rule, the council will not respond to public comments directly. Written comments can be mailed to the city clerk's office by 2 p.m. the day of the meeting, and they will be distributed to council before the meeting. Written comments will, however, not be read into the record. On that note, I will now accept public comments on behalf of the city council. Please come to the podium and state your name and residence, and we look forward to hearing your remarks.
Thank you, Mayor, or Deputy Mayor, council members, and neighbors and supporters. My name is James Weaver, and I am proud to announce and to serve as the new port manager for the Port of Poulsbo. It's a privilege to step into this role. And it's such an extraordinary community and one that I've called home for almost 25 years. Poulsbo's waterfront has always been the heart of this community, both historically and for the new generations and families that are moving here. Businesses, boaters, and all the residents who do visit bring life to Liberty Bay and to our city.
They do.
This history reminds us that the port and the city share something much bigger than our own facilities, and we share a legacy and a responsibility as a steward of our waterfront, working together. So as port manager, my vision is simple: to build a strong partnership with the city and the port. Together, we can strengthen our infrastructure, we can protect our environment, support our small businesses, and continue to build upon the shared foundations of our waterfront to this wonderful, vibrant gem that we have as our community. The Port of Poulsbo celebrates our 75th anniversary next year. And with that, we look forward to sharing that celebration with the city and our community. No one could imagine 75 years ago of all the progress we have made in this community and on our waterfront. And together, I think we can really work as a catalyst for the next 75 years and what we can build. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm excited for the opportunity. I look forward to meeting with all of you and working together over the next decade or so. So thank you.
Welcome. Welcome, James. If I could hold you there for just a moment, after stating the council doesn't respond to public comments, I didn't say anything about the deputy mayor. So number one, knowing James Weaver, I would just want to further his resume with my colleagues. He served as a planner for Kitsap County.
Mm-hmm.
He served as a planner for the city of Port Orchard. He comes to us from the Port of Bremerton with a stellar reputation and a great track record. I look forward myself to a new era of relations with the port. I can say that speaking personally. And also to point out that our own Councilman Doug Tabor is our assigned liaison to the port. And we generally look forward to an annual or biannual summit of the council and the commission. So on that note, again, thank you, James, for great work to come.
Thank you. It's good to come home and work for the community.
Again, calling for public comment. If you would come to the podium, state your name, residence, and you have 3 minutes. We look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, Julie Karkanen, live next door in the blue house.
Yep.
Bierland house with fishing boats. Anyway, I was here 3 months ago, June 11th, and I talked to you guys about speed bumps on 3rd Avenue, and I've gotten nothing back. So I was in some contact with Josh Raines, and he said they were going to put up some cameras or something for a week, and I still haven't heard anything. So I'm thinking 3 months, yeah, it's quite a while. 2 weeks ago, real quick, 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue, we all got together and had a block party. And there was so much conversations. 4th Avenue is the same. They are in need of speed bumps too. The traffic here has just gotten crazy. All the buildings, the new places. Yeah, so anyway, that's all. I just wanted to come back and remind you guys I'm still here and waiting to hear something. So thanks.
Once again, I'll violate our stated rules and suggest our city administrator, Rob Gelder, will be able to work with you on that question.
Okay.
And then part of the reason I make a remark is we just shouted out tonight the name a.Land. And the house next door to us is the oldest existing residential structure in Poulsbo. It's been recited, but don't let that fool you.
We had to do some changing inside. The wiring was pretty dangerous and the plumbing. My family got it about 1972, But, yeah, and we found a lot of things in the wall.
Oh, did you?
And we brought stuff to the Historical Society too. And then we came over here and I got things from City Hall to put in our wall. So in 100 years, when somebody goes to remodel again, they can find things from our generation.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, calling again for public comment. Please come to the podium, state your name, place of residence, and you have 3 minutes, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Good evening. Mike Regis, resident, total geek, loves old histories. I'm at the Historical Society, very deep into the history of the city of Poulsbo. And I appreciate the fact that we were calling out the international Spanish community that initially discovered the Northwest, looking for another way to get back to Boston without having to go around the world. And also, the history of the maritime theme inside of Poulsbo. And so from that hook and that hook alone, I would like to see a proclamation that's a little more timely, whereas we honor and acknowledge that we are a Navy community. A lot of our people are living in the quality of Poulsbo so that their spouses and loved ones and everybody is involved in the Navy effort. Kitsap County North is Navy country, and if things get dicey in the world, we go right back to our roots. We are an old Navy community, and I would like to see perhaps the city could develop a proclamation to that effect. Veterans Day is coming up soon. It's an opportunity to do so. I was in the military. A lot of you fellows are in the military, and the women, and we need to acknowledge those people today who are living here, paying the bills, keeping the schools going, and passing library levies. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, calling out for public comment. Please come to the podium, state your name. You have 3 minutes, and we welcome your remarks. And I'll call again for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the city council tonight? Not seeing and hearing anyone else, we're going to move on to mayor's report and council comments, and we're going to begin with a special recognition from the Association of Washington Cities. A few of my colleagues up here have earned an honor, and I'm going to turn it over to our city administrator, Rob Gelder, for the introduction of our special guest, if I may.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stern and council members. It is my pleasure to introduce this evening Councilmember and Deputy Mayor of Port Townsend, who is also our a.AWC District 12 board member, Amy Howard. And Amy is here to conduct the recognition this evening for our council members. So welcome.
Hello. I just want to point out first that my city council chamber doesn't have snacks, and I'm going to go back and have a conversation with my city manager about it. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Stern and members of City Council, City of Poulsbo, for allowing me to join you today. My name is Amy Howard. I am the Deputy Mayor of Port Townsend, and I am a member of the a.AWC Board of Directors, serving as the representative for District 12. District 12 includes the cities and towns within the counties of Clallam, Grays Harbor, Jefferson, Kitsap, Mason, Pacific, and Waukegan. I also want to acknowledge another former District 12 representative on the a.AWC Board of Directors, Deputy Mayor Ed Stern. Deputy Mayor Stern served on the a.AWC board from 2008 to 2022 and was president of the association from 2019 to 2020. He earned his CML in 2007 and his advanced CML in 2009, and in 2017, he convinced me to continue to participate at the a.AWC. It's an honor to be here this evening to present an advanced certificate of municipal leadership to Councilmember Rick Eckert and to present a certificate of municipal leadership to Councilmember Gary Maffei. Before I acknowledge these accomplishments, I would like to share a little bit about a.AWC for members of the public who may not know what we do. and to remind each of you about the programs and services we offer for both elected officials and your city employees. AWC's mission is to build connections between our state's diverse cities and towns while providing our members with the support needed to thrive through delivery of data-driven education, nationally recognized pooling programs, and nonpartisan advocacy. Working with city members, the Legislative Priorities Committee, and the Board of Directors, AWC is the voice of cities before the legislature, the executive branch, and regulatory agencies. We provide training and conferences for elected officials and your city staff. For example, we are holding an emergency management forum on October 2 in Wenatchee. We hope that you will be able to join us. We will also be hosting our elected officials essentials workshops at locations throughout the state on Saturday, December 6th. Please mark your calendars for this all-day training. This covers the essentials of city government for new elected officials, as well as those who wish to continue their learning. On Thursday, October 30th, AWC will host their District 12 meeting right here in Poulsbo City Hall from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. This is a great opportunity to provide insights and feedback on AWC, on your city, and to hear about the 2026 legislative priorities. We have many ways you can get involved by serving AWC committees or a state board, and I encourage you to seek out those opportunities. Recruitments are posted on our website throughout the year and listed on the AWC Wednesday newsletter, City Voice. While most of those opportunities are for elected officials, some are for city staff. Worth noting, Deputy Mayor Stern currently serves as one of 3 city representatives on the Public Works Board. Thank you for your service on that board. And a little background for you on the Certificate of Municipal Leadership Program, or the CML. AWC's Certificate in Municipal Leadership offers mayors and council members essential knowledge and skills to effectively operate within the law, secure and manage funds, plan for the future, build safe and healthy communities, and be effective local leaders. The program was developed in 1997, so it's been around for more than 25 years now. To achieve a Certificate of Municipal Leadership, an elected official must complete 30 hours of training in different core competency areas. The advanced certificate requires an additional 30 hours of training, plus a demonstrated significant community service. More than 1,600 elected officials have completed the core certificate, and over 400 have completed the advanced certificate. This brings me to acknowledge and congratulate Councilmember Rick Eckert on the achievement of the advanced CML and Councilmember Gary McVeigh for obtaining his Certificate of Municipal Leadership. Council members and mayors are not professional politicians. They bring to the table a wide variety of backgrounds and experiences, and many work full-time jobs in addition to their public service. But just because they are not professional politicians doesn't mean that professional development isn't important for them. AWC's educational programs help elected officials navigate complex laws and mandates and give them the tools to be effective leaders. The AWC CML program provides training in land use and infrastructure, budgeting and fiscal management, public safety, leadership development, and other topics that are critical for our city council members and mayors. By obtaining their advanced CML and CML respectively, council members Eckert and McVeigh have demonstrated a level of proficiency and commitment to their community that is highly commendable, and we applaud them both. I would also like to acknowledge that all members of the council have taken AWC trainings, and that many of you are well on your way to achieving your CML and even to the advanced CML. I encourage you to keep that up. Because many years you have been serving the community, we all have more to learn and more to develop. It has been an honor for me to serve on the AWC board and to support my fellow elected officials in their professional development. Thank you all for your service to the community. This is important work that you're doing. Cities are the level of government closest to the people, and our residents rely on us for the services that matter. Public safety, infrastructure, even parks. All the things that make your community a great place to live, as shown by some of your comments earlier this evening. Thank you for your hard work and dedication, and thank you for allowing me to be here with you tonight. How would you like to receive the certificates?
Why don't my 2 colleagues go to the podium so we have a chance to honor you and single you out for your hard work?
Councilmember Eckert? We have a shiny certificate.
And perhaps Deputy Mayor, you'd like to read what the certificates say to both of them.
The certificates? a.AWC Advanced Certificate of Municipal Leadership. a.AWC recognizes Councilmember Rick Eckert. That's it. Do you want us to do this with some intention here? Let's stand right over here. There's why would you like?
Excellent. Please join me in a round of applause for appreciation of hard work. And thank you, Deputy Mayor Amy Howard, for coming up here. Maybe you and I should get together and think about a state deputy mayor day. Thank you for your travel down from Port Townsend, Amy. All right, now we're going to continue with mayor's report and council comments as we normally do it, and we'll move from left to right. And I'll start with calling on my colleague, Councilwoman Pam Crowe.
I appreciate the public comments shared and the resolutions that were shared in acknowledgement of our Spanish Latino community, and then also the accomplishments and recognition of the Historical Society. And I must say that being a family member of loved ones that serve in the military, I also appreciate the possibility or the recommendation of a resolution for a Navy military persons in our community. And I will say I am inspired by Gary and Rick and their accomplishments, because it nudged me to move forward and roll up my sleeves and dig into trying to move towards my CML and hopefully the advanced CML. So you guys, because of you, I jumped in. So thank you for being that model and that source of inspiration, and congratulations. And also I'm excited to have James Weaver on board in the port. It's wonderful. It's going to be a great relationship and further elevate what the community has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Tabor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the citizens community members that spoke today. Appreciate all the comments. I also want to echo that I was inspired by our fellow council members and the a.AWC event that I attended. It's cool to be from Poulsbo when you go to meet all the other city representatives and talk about what's going on in other cities and get ideas and share struggles. And it's a wonderful community and a great thing that we have here, a great resource. So I look forward to also participating more in a.AWC and working my way to my CML as well. And then really great to have James Weaver on board. We had a meeting, and yeah, he's going to be. I'm really optimistic to work with James Weaver on port issues and bring ideas and good news hopefully back to the council and work through any difficulties that the city and the port might come across. But I think it's going to be a really good relationship. And last note, this weekend, if it's not overlapping with anything else that's going on in the city, Port Gamble Heritage Park, there will be Hannah Bergman, who's a Red Bull athlete, will be having a jump jam, an all-women's jump jam. So mountain bikes flying off 40-foot jumps, backflips, that sort of thing here at our own Port Gamble Park. Previously, this was hosted by the city of Bellingham, but oh no, moving to North Kitsap because of the ride park we have over there in the park. So that's going to be really cool. That'll be Friday with the finals and a competition taking place on Saturday. And they're also raffling off quite a few bikes and other exciting things. And there'll be food and food trucks and other activities up there in the park.
Very cool, Doug. Thank you. Councilman Eckert.
Yes, thank you. Thanks to Amy for coming down to do that. Yeah, it takes a little bit of work. But the trainings are good. It's good information, and like you said, that when doing the stuff in person, you get to talk to folks from other cities and kind of share and see what we're all experiencing that's similar. I think it was my first conference. I met a council member from a city that I'd never heard of. That's much smaller than us, but we compared notes on affordable housing and vacancies on your main street and challenges with filling the holes. And it was just, the exact conversation was exactly the same, except their population is 800 and ours is 13,000. And, And then I learned that they're the only city in Washington that still operates off their territorial charter. And up till 2 years ago, they still had to run for election every year. So I said, you just learn really cool stuff talking to folks at these events. So that's fun. And then, so yeah, just last weekend was really busy in the city. Bounced from the farmer's market to the kids' day to the Pride in the Park, and then ran out of steam before getting to Central Market. But what I really liked about it is if you think about it, that's an event. It pretty much was the entire city covered. All four parts of the city. It wasn't just downtown. It wasn't just rock. Like it was hitting all of our places, and that's what I love to see is spreading out and using the whole city. The Kids' Day, I think that might have been about 3 times bigger than last year. I was really surprised when I pulled up and saw how it had spread out and really grown. That was great. Pride Day was using a good chunk of the park, I think more than last year, and didn't get poured on like they did last year. That was great. It's just so much stuff's going on in our city, and I just can't be prouder of everything we got going on. But and then my wife and son, they were here. They snuck out though, and I'll just say, but I was going to say a happy anniversary to my wife. We had our anniversary this week. 30 years we've been married. So.
Congratulations on your anniversary, both of you, Rick. I have 3 comments, but following in Mayor Erickson's good stead, I'll refrain till the end. And that's why my name is Stern, back of the boat. So I'll be happy in that area. Councilman McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. Yes, thank you to Amy Howard for coming over from Port Townsend. I appreciate her time and her the work she does with a.AWC, and I've appreciated the professional development that the organization offers. Every year it seems like we have changes coming down from the federal and state government, and it's great to have resources to call upon and colleagues across the state to learn from. So I've appreciated that. And I just want to highlight Tuesday is kind of a big day here in the city. We have the grand opening of our Nordic Cottages, affordable housing, deeply affordable housing development on Lincoln Avenue across from the library. That's going to happen Tuesday at noon, and the public can tour the cottages and see the grounds. And it's been a long time coming, and I think we're feeling very good about the opening of that new affordable housing facility. So noon Tuesday, Nordic Cottages. And then that evening, Tuesday evening at 5 p.m., we are having alternative dwelling unit open house. The city is sponsoring at the SIP, which is a bar and lounge down on Front Street. It's the old Slippery Pig. That is happening from 5 to 7 p.m. Tuesday night. So if you're interested in perhaps building an alternative dwelling unit, if you're interested in financing an ADU or just want to kind of curious, please join us 5 p.m. Tuesday at the SIP downtown. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Councilman Livedall.
Yeah, hi. I just want to mention last week was a little bit busy. We were invited by the Recovery Resource Center to go down and put some of the first paint on their what's going to be a really beautiful mural, I think, in the cafe, the Recovery Cafe. So that was an honor to be asked to do that. And then later, Councilmember Stern, Deputy Mayor Stern and I got on some bicycles, and shout out to Poulsbo Police who kept us safe all the way to Winslow. That was more than I was anticipating, but it was pretty special to ride all of 305 and not fear for my life the whole way. But anyway, yeah, we crossed the bridge and we stopped several times along the way and learned a lot about the future of the Sound to Olympic Trail, which will take a lot of effort to accomplish. But I think the importance was evident during that experience. So we had fun. There were probably over 30 of us, right? Elected officials, staff, over 40. Wow. Thanks, Jeff. And Jeff was our planner extraordinaire. So he's the reason it all came together. Anyway, it was actually quite fun. I was a little sore, more sore than afterwards than I'd like to admit, but thanks again to the police. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Britt. Councilman Newell.
Nothing tonight.
I guess the back of the boat comes up. So I have three things. I'm going to follow up on Britt's remarks too. And I sent a couple photographs that were taken, including by Jeff on the trail. I think we'll start with, if it's available, the chamber board meeting from today, the luncheon. While our city clerk's teeing that up, and it's two pictures, one of the audience and one of our special featured speaker, our own city administrator, Rob Gelder. So we had a pretty full house. There were more tables than this, and it may not have been City Administrator Rob Gelder's debut performance, but he did an outstanding job. Next slide. There he is. So it was a very comprehensive review of, number one, the job description, the intent, the focus, and moving forward. That was very elucidating for our business community. And then he went on to describe not quite the state of the city, but chose specific things, including housing and the touching on what Councilwoman Livedall talked about, the trail system. I found your remarks on the RAISE grant very incisive. I might have you expand on that. And well, why don't I turn it over to you just for a moment and expand on that and any other remarks you'd like to share, Rob. Very proud of you today.
Thank you, Councilmember Stern. I appreciate that. I think the context of that, my comments related to the RAISE grant were really the question from the audience was related to sort of, what is that nexus, the interplay between really the state and the local level. And so I chose to sort of take it that next level, saying that a lot of the decisions or things that are happening on the federal level will have a rippling effect on the state and local level as well. One example being the RAISE grant, in terms of the criteria, new criteria coming online that make it challenging to actually achieve it, or having deadlines and other deliverables that make it potentially risky, such that if you slip, you don't necessarily achieve what we need to achieve, and have risk, whether we have to pay something back, et cetera. Who knows? There's just a lot of that we were sifting through at this point in time. And another example was really just sort of the rippling effect of healthcare coverage, or the loss thereof, the ability of the state to potentially fill that gap, because we don't on a local level have that resource, which that just has a huge impact on the provider community, our nonprofit providers, et cetera. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Outstanding job. And I'll use that, the RAISE grant, as my segue to my second remarks, which is following up on Britt with the trails ride. I guess we can call Highway 305 a trail. That's the aspiration. So I'll expand on the RAISE grant remark at the very end, but illustrate here, there were some 40 of us. Some brought their bikes, some were provided bicycles. There's Josh Raines from our engineering department. I know Diane Linnaeus, our public works director, is lingering on either side. I think there'll be a photo. And I believe, is that Ron Hart? No, that's Rob Gelder right there in the middle, wearing the Viking Fest Road Race 2025 t-shirt. But Chief Harding chose to imitate him and wore a similar shirt on the ride. And again, if we could slide over. Our intrepid police department, no one was arrested, I'm glad to say, Deputy Chief Lee. So there were 2 bicyclists, the truck, a trailer, and a motorcyclist. And that effectively took care of all the traffic on 305. And I'm sure there were no motorists who were upset with us for being late for the ferry, because the ferry's late anyway, right, Rob? I mean, it's going to be late. So the way this worked, and we can go to another slide here, was the city of Bainbridge Island, electeds and their top staff. The city of Poulsbo, 2 of us from city council, Rob Gelder, a lot of our police, but a lot of our professional staff. Our parks director, Jeff Zemek, did a great job helping to organize it. And then we had stops where Diane Linnaeus, as Public Works Director at the roundabout, addressed what we were seeing there, the connectivity, the future. Then the tribe, there's a photo at the casino by the bridge, spoke to us about their piece of it. And then on Bainbridge Island, we had a series of stops where we spoke with both electeds and professional staff. So all of this, as Britt talked about, was meant to illustrate, especially to us electeds who have policy-making powers, the whole idea of multimodal. So we're talking about bicyclists, joggers, walkers, motorized wheelchairs, not to exclude, and then many users who want to recreate. And so we had WashDOT there, Department of Transportation, as well as the Suquamish tribe. And we had the trails associations and bicycling clubs represented who have a direct interest in this connectivity. And as both Britt and Rob talked about, the sound to what's called Sound to Olympics, that's our portion from Winslow through Poulsbo up toward the Hood Canal with a lot of roundabouts, and then across the bridge, and then connecting with the Discovery Trail and running all the way out to the tip of the peninsula. And ultimately, that leg will connect with the cross trail system across the United States as a whole. That's very aspirational. Britt talked about us pedaling along and sweating. I won't even talk about my misadventure. I looked like the Wicked Witch of the East pedaling so fast. It turned out I misunderstood. My bike actually had 7 forward gears. I thought it only had 4, and I was sweating, trying to keep up with everyone. But I told my wife when I got home, I don't need to exercise tonight. So there was a real benefit to that. We discovered that there are a lot of missing legs. Britt and Rob can help fill in. Our portion is funded by the RAISE grant, RAISE. It's an acronym, of course, of federal money, and it was earmarked at about 400,000. Our Public Works Director, Diane Linnaeus, is something of a genius when it comes to managing federal grants. I know when that grant was first awarded, all the cities along the route over the 3 counties asked her to head up the project for them because of her expertise, and she wisely said, no, thank you. But she is doing a great job managing our end of it, and it's a troublesome grant. We're going to have to wrestle with how far to obligate ourselves, understand the risk, understand the clawback provisions the federal government might thrust on us, how, where, when, and why. But that money is critical to the Poulsbo portion, other than what general fund monies this body might appropriate in the future, to patching the holes, creating a safe route through Poulsbo, well marked, and of course, us on 305 bore the brunt of things not too well marked, not too safe, but we had a good time. Britt, any other remarks you'd like to share on your right?
Really, except somehow I ended up at the very front going across the Agate Pass Bridge. I don't know how that happened, but once in a lifetime opportunity, I'm sure.
I can assure you I was at the back pedaling like crazy. Jeff, outstanding job coordinating. Would you share a remark or two? You were part of the impetus to putting this together. And I know Mayor Erickson shared how she was approached by Diane Iverson and others already months ago with the idea of this.
Thank you, Councilmember Stern, Deputy Mayor Stern. 2 things. One, I'm glad you learned about the other gears on your bike. You definitely got to work out. I can attest to that. And 2, this was a very large, we had almost a dozen folks on the planning committee from the county, from West Sound Cycling Club, from Cascade Bicycle Club, all the jurisdictions of our local police, led up by Lieutenant Zeman and Chief Harding, acting as liaisons. We had our partners at the Suquamish tribe, Bainbridge Island, City of Bainbridge Island, and Bainbridge Island Parks Foundation, Bart Trafton there, and the Metropolitan Park District. And I can go on. There was an enormous amount of stakeholders, something like 22 different organizations that came together on this. So it wasn't any one person. It was very much a collective effort. And have to say, it couldn't have gone better. And I really also want to give a special shout out to our phenomenal police force. They were exceptional and made sure that riders were safe and that the riders could focus on educating our elected officials and sharing some of the challenges and some of the successes of the route. Thank you.
Any questions for Jeff or anything you want expanded on the ride before we leave it behind? So my last remark is purely personal, and I have a prop I brought along, which is a dog collar for if you've ever had a pet that's been worked on by a vet. I'll leave it that, and this way they don't scratch themselves to oblivion. So you might see me in one of these, or perhaps a human version, very shortly. So I'm going to be having a little surgery on Friday in Seattle to repair some neck vertebrae. I'll preface it by saying, in the listening audience, if you're parents and you have middle school children, please be careful about encouraging them to be in gymnastics. They should be confident and supple, of which I was neither in the 7th grade. Managed to rip a neck muscle. I won't give you the gruesome detail. I thought that was the end of it, but all these years later, it's come back to haunt me. So for those of you who thought in the past that I might be a pain in the neck, perhaps with Olympic College or Western Washington, like a dog with a bone, maybe you're right. For those of you who thought I was a pain in the neck on the parking committee and my opposition to paid parking, at least immediately, you might be right. And now I'm going to be able to say I'm certifiably a pain in the neck. And so you won't have me here next week, but I hope to rejoin you very shortly and with a stiff backbone. How's that? That sounds. So thank you for your indulgence on that. And on that note, we'll continue with the agenda. The next item is board, commission, and outside agency reports. Do we have any to report? Not seeing any to my left. Rick.
I didn't catch the date Amy mentioned for our regional meeting. Did you catch what date she said that's going to be, that we're going to have that here in City Hall?
That's correct. Rob, do you have the dates on the AWC meeting?
Thursday, October 30th, between 11:30 and 1:30 p.m. here in Chambers.
Okay.
Speaking of meetings, those of you who are attending the Historical Society, if you would please convey, if you think of it, my apologies not being there. I'm going to be way late for a few days. So I'm going to be missing a host of events that I regret, including the Nordic Cottage dedication and the rest of it. I know. So I regret that highly, but it needs to be done. So turning to my right, any boards or commissions, outside agency reports? Not seeing any. We're going to move on then to department head comments. We'll start with our city administrator, Rob Gelder.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Just as a heads up for the folks that are viewing our meeting this evening, we are experiencing some difficulties with our live cable broadcast. It is streaming successfully through Granicus as well as Zoom, but our best thinking is this is a residual issue from the accident that occurred that took out some of the cable infrastructure last Friday. So we are experiencing that right now, but we are recording this and folks will be able to view it later. Or if they're watching it now live, they're able to see it as well. But I also would like to say, share my extreme thanks as well. We've had a lot of wonderful comments about the STO ride to actually create a learn and ride experience. I too have probably not been on a bike in about 20 some odd years. It's doable. But that battery assist is a godsend. Cannot say enough about that. But as Jeff alluded to, there was a large team that made this happen. A planning effort. It was an idea from one or two individuals, and probably much to Jeff's chagrin, as he was volunteered to become our representative for it, or sort of our lead representative, to really, in many ways, to be the lead of the planning committee. It was an inordinate amount of time. He ate, slept, and breathed this, but it came off without a hitch because of the time and energy that he put into it and the coordination with the police department. And it was the best supported ride ever that I've been part of. I'm spoiled. I don't think I could do a ride again in the future without it being escorted. I just have to say. So thank you to everyone who played a big role in making it happen, and would like to share for those who are watching our meeting this evening, just a little glimpse into what that was like. And there's no sound for this. Thank you. And then if you didn't catch the credits at the very end, this was produced by Elizabeth Osmick. So she was able to share this with us. And it's a great short glimpse into what that experience was that afternoon. So thank you again for everyone. And just a little clarification about the RAISE grant for the city of Poulsbo, that specifically is a planning grant. So it does not involve construction at this point in time, but it's really looking at alternatives so that we can continue to sort of narrow what our approach and connections might be. That would then get us closer to coming up with, where do we invest in design and then eventually construction to make that happen. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Public Works Director Diane Linius.
I will also talk about my first experience riding an electric bike last week. So I'm in favor of them in general now as well. An additional comment on the RAISE grant. Council might remember that we signed the original contract probably 3 months ago. So we had signed the agreement. We received amendment number 1, which is a modification from federal highways in DC and adds additional requirements related to things that are not necessarily part of what you would consider for this type of work. So it's a new thing for all of the attorneys at the various jurisdictions to take a look at. It's not something that I've personally seen before in the way that it's worded. It's a little bit broader than I would expect for this type of work, especially since Poulsbo only has a study being performed. The study is really how do we connect the STO to the city of Poulsbo. We think people want to come to town, they want to have some lunch, maybe have a beer, maybe spend the night, and that loop through the city is really, really important. So all of the jurisdictions will look at the contract because they all have to sign it. We're talking to local programs, the city administrators are talking and the attorneys are talking, and we'll do the right thing for Poulsbo and managing our risk. Unusual, I haven't seen it like that before, but I think it's important that we take a hard look at it. I'll update you on a couple of things that I've mentioned before. Good news, Vanheimer will finish their night work this week. You may have noticed the trenches patched for the sewer crossing that they did. Oslo is working on 305 night work. They still have 2 or 3 more weeks to do that. They did encounter some unexpected items, as always happens, and WashDOT will be out there with them tonight to make a decision on the route forward. But I think that will go just fine. I'm not sure if Lee, are you talking about cameras tonight? Okay, well then I'll mention on behalf of the chief and Josh that the PSC meter should go in the 29th for the camera at 305 and Bond. So we're finally reaching that stage and should have that online soon. The Public Works Department selected Helix Design Group as our architect for the Public Works facility. The next phase on that is for them to do some value engineering and right sizing. So I anticipate bringing a contract back to you in October to get that piece of work done. We've obligated some more money, but you'll hear more about that later. And then because we love to talk about parking and Josh and Heather are not here, I do want to let you know that there will be 2 ADA parking spots, handicap parking spots that go in. One will be right next to the phone booth, and the other one will be mid-block on Front Street. It's close to the planter area and very close to Sly's, just to give you an idea of where that's located. Public Works has ordered the signs. They've gone down and done some measurements and identified where we need some new posts, and you will see some new signage soon. We're also doing quite a bit of work for our Deer Parks director, and he will give updates on those things. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so Rob mentioned the outage that we had with internet. And I just wanted to point out that somehow that also managed to be a water outage in part of the city, specifically my neighborhood. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Public Works. Yeah, because they rapidly repaired the problem and got our water back on really quickly. And so that was much appreciated, because while you can live without internet for a while, you don't want to have to live without water. So thank you very much for that.
We're going to call on our Parks Director, but speaking of internet, our own Parks Director is a star on Facebook and Instagram. That I am fond of referring to him as not the Parks and Recreation Director, but the Parks and Destination Director. He gets his job done and still sees half the world. Jeff, do you want to take it away?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Boy, I'm flattered today. I don't know what I did. So let me start with a few updates. Please pay attention to your screens. Here comes the first update. Let's see if I can make this a little bit larger. One moment. Slideshow. All right. So earlier this morning, there was a call that made a concerned citizen made a call. There was a fire reported down in American Legion Park. What we think happened is an unattended fire. Just as FYI, fires are not supposed to be at American Legion Park, to be very clear. But one was lit. They called. Fire department came down and extinguished it. Our wonderful Public Works team came down with a water truck and saturated that area. So you have a sense of where this is specifically. It's right next to the little picnic table. We did a work party over there. I think it was last year. We cleaned out a huge amount of vegetation, but it's right at that root structure. And just want to be very thankful for our fire department and as well as Public Works for saturating that, make sure that didn't go underground. And also a special shout out to Josh Jones, who was able on site to unlock that gate quickly so responders could respond. So that's the first update. The second update is another PowerPoint, and it's going to be just one moment. Share the screen. And that is what our esteemed Public Works Director, Diane Linius, is referring to. I didn't know that oh wait, no, is the wrong one? Gosh darn it, hang on here. Stop share. Get out of there. Try this again. Ah, okay, here it is. This is what happens. Wunderbar. All right, so good news. We are very close to getting an RFP out to upgrade and renovate the South End picnic area that has been there since the 70s. So just a reminder of this project overview. This project is funded by Lodging Tax Advisory Committee dollars because it's a main tourist destination. So the old picnic area is the concrete will go away. It's gonna be done in-house. Then the contractor will come in. It's gonna expand the area around the trees. The trees are girdled right now. If you go down there, you'll see that. New tables, new lighting, refresh the landscaping, working with our pollinator program as well, and then removing 3 plum trees for visibility. There's not been, the more open a space is, the more inviting it is, and increased perception of public safety. You have a lot more users. So this is what the project area looks like, and this is courtesy from our Public Works and our engineering team. It's replacing like for like, and we're actually removing more concrete because we're expanding areas where the trees are growing. Again, where the project is located, if you're not familiar, And then this is what it currently looks like. So it's aged. It's just older. It's got a great legacy, but it's time. Waterfront Park is a beautiful area. It's our gem of our parks, and this is what's going to happen. But we do want to call out just those 3 plum trees are going to be coming out, be replanted with some pollinator species. And that's really going to help the visibility and reduce any type of negative behavior that may occur in that area. And this work is going to be done. This work is going to be done starting potentially at the end of September. It's not going to interfere with events that are happening down there, and it should wrap up sometime before the end of the year.
What are we replacing the concrete with, Jeff?
Oh, thank you. I might have glossed over that. So the concrete is being hauled out. New concrete is being poured and graded, so you don't have that puddling effect as well. So there will be additional concrete, but because it's a maintenance, it's replacing like for like. It's getting rid of the old concrete, repouring a new slab.
For the trees that are being removed, you said pollinator friendly stuff. What does that mean more specifically?
Yeah, so you're going to have an update on that soon as well. It's not going to be large trees that are going to block visibility, but there is a pollinator committee of about 22 people advising, and this is part of a different project that council approved. It was mayor funded dollars from last year. American Legion Park is one site, City Hall's another site, and Waterfront Park is a site to build a year-round pollinator garden that has structure and different native flowering drought resistant climate species that are going to be down there. And then we're working with Pearson Elementary, and there'll be education and interpretive signs and supporting that. So when folks come to visit the waterfront, it'll be more beautiful. It'll help with increasing visibility, and as well as providing that habitat, because that habitat is we have a lot of development down there. Good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff on the waterfront proposal? I would point out those pillars that act as seats are the original legacy item from Waterfront Park. The whole pavilion used to just be a series of those. The kids used to love to step on them, almost like an obstacle course, providing there wasn't somebody sitting on one. I think I was once in the obstacle course, but maybe we ought to offer one of those concrete pillars to the Historical Society or some such, because it is the original. That's all that's left of what was once many concrete pillars throughout the park.
Maybe we can auction them off. Who knows? That could be a fundraising opportunity. That's right. They did it with the viaduct down in Seattle. Take a piece of the viaduct. We could do it for Waterfront Park's picnic area. Didn't think about that. The other 2 updates are the Lodging Tax Advisory Grant, the Poulsbo Tourism Grant closed. There's 15 applicants. 2 of them are new. So those applications just went out to the advisory committee this evening, and they have about 10 days to review it, and then presentations will be later this month. And then just a friendly reminder that I heard, I think it was Councilmember Eckert saying that there's so many great things happening all around our wonderful city. Well, next Saturday is the skate park grand opening and ribbon cutting. So 10 a.m. If you haven't already done an RSVP, please email our staff or just come tell me so we know if we have a quorum or not. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. And our finance director, Debbie Boer, and I know she's also on our study workshop agenda item with a big item, but anything separate to report, Debbie?
I have nothing.
IT director, Brooks.
Okay, just a quick update. We've been in the midst of what we've been calling the G5 migration. That's our improvements to our Microsoft services, online services. It's a big, massive project. We're currently in a cloud migration component revolving around security to improve and increase security all the way around. And once that's complete, we'll keep moving on. And we've shut down 1 physical server. We're going to be shutting down the remainder of the 8 servers, meaning 8 of 9 servers to shut down. We'll have no physical on-premise servers, looking like October 31st being the end date for that. So that's a big deal. We've got a lot of training and whatnot for staff members, because we're trying to make this transition as smooth as possible and limit the impact. But
there's lots of improvements coming out of this, lots more security, et cetera. Just want to give you guys an update on that.
Question, Brooks. There's been reference to the accident on the pole, South Viking, I believe it was an accident that brought down the Comcast cable. You didn't suffer any problem here because you have KPUD as a redundancy. What's our backup there? Because many of us were just playing out as were businesses for 24 hours.
Currently, our backup solution is Astound Fiber. As far as I know, it is not related. Astound Fiber was not down as part of that. I don't believe it travels that direction. We are always in discussion on how we can improve that. One of the things goes back to my earlier comment about taking everything off premise and getting everything into the cloud so that we can utilize things like Starlink, our cell phones, et cetera, to access the data that we need.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for Brooks? Not seeing any. City Clerk Rhiannon, anything to share? Not. We're not seeing any other comment from council. We're going to move on now to consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the City Council for reading and study, are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion of the council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired, then that item may be removed from the consent agenda and put on the business agenda for discussion. And tonight, the one item is resolution number 2025-11, authorizing execution of settlements with opioid manufacturers. And just for the sake of context, I'll read the summary statement in our agenda. In 2018, the city of Poulsbo filed an independent claim for damages related to the impacts of the opioid crisis. This action would release the city's claim in order to join the settlement agreement being negotiated and received through the state of Washington. Is there any desire, or do I have a motion to approve the agenda as provided?
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve consent agenda item A.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. There will be no discussion as it is a consent agenda item. We're going to move down the dais. Councilwoman Crowe.
Crowe, aye.
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye. Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Livedall, aye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, Council. There's nothing else on the consent agenda, so we're going to move on to the business agenda. Resolution number 2025-12, solid waste disposition. That will be Diane Linnaeus, and if I can quickly find reference to this. It has to do with, of course, we're expanding our public works facility, what I call right sizing. So it was an opportune time to see which functions we want to continue to maintain and build into a revamped and rebuilt and brand new public works facility. And so there was a review of solid waste, whether to remain in business or to, in fact, turn it over to the private sector. And on that note, Diane Linnaeus, thank you.
Good evening, Council and Deputy Mayor. I just want to remind, I do not have a presentation, but I'm happy to bring up the one that I gave at workshop on August 6th if anyone feels the need, and happy to bring up the resolution if anyone feels the need. I think this is straightforward. We had discussion on August 6th. With our financial consultant services group, we had taken a look at solid waste from the perspective of how is it operating financially, and also how do we compare in terms of the cost to the ratepayer to other jurisdictions in Kitsap County and the region. The conclusion of that evaluation was that it appears that it could be more cost effective to the customer to outsource solid waste. The reason for that is because a larger entity or a specialized entity that performs solid waste services can potentially do it much more cost effectively than a small city that also manages water and sewer and transportation and facilities and everything else that we do. So it is the recommendation of the Public Works Department and our city administrator that we move forward with the process of outsourcing solid waste. That does mean that we go out for a bid, we go through a formal process, and we get bids from those that are interested, and we take a look at that and determine what's best for citizens. So what you have in front of you tonight is a resolution that visits a little bit the history, the work that we did in 2016. We did a business plan. We made the modifications recommended in the business plan, and we continued forward. We increased our rates. We made CPI adjustments to the rates. And quite frankly, the cost of services has continued to go up. The majority of those increase in costs are outside of our control. They're things like tipping fees. They're new technologies that a bigger agency can afford to go out and get versus a small agency like us. So after much thought and consideration, we feel that the only way to know for certain is to put a bid out. And I do believe full-heartedly that we are currently not quite twice what the other agencies are, but pretty darn close to it. We know that we need a significant rate increase to continue to move forward, and we think it's wise to go through the process of outsourcing. Are there any questions from council?
Questions from council, and then if presuming we get a motion in a second, there'll be an opportunity for discussion then. But any questions for Diane? Rick?
Yeah, just one. You mentioned during the presentation that even if we do pursue this, there are some actions we're gonna have to take kind of in the interim, because this won't be a quick thing. And I was just kind of wondering the timeline, like you'll be coming back to us to discuss those intermediate steps.
Well, I've already quietly started on them, but I thought I would stick with one decision for tonight. I anticipate that in late October or November, I'll be back. And at that time, there are resources that we need to hire to help us with the process that specialize in contracting out. And I'm excited to partner with someone that's experienced in that to help guide us through the process. So that's the first thing that I would bring back to you. The second thing that I will bring back to you is we did recommend a rate increase, and I think I'll do that in November as well, with the goal of it happening in January. The process to outsource will take a year to go through the proposal process in a thorough method. And then the actual timing will depend on how long it takes to get equipment. If the provider already has equipment that they can use, that process can be fairly fast. So if the council chose to move forward 18 months from now, we may have a provider doing the work rather than us. If it takes a while to get the equipment, which the order time on a piece of equipment is 18 months, it could be pushed out much further than that. So that's why I anticipate that there will be some interim rate adjustment. So I hope that's helpful.
Questions from council? Mr. McVeigh?
Thanks, Ed. Thank you, Diane. I think we've had a thorough discussion about this issue. It's an important issue, but I think it was pretty clear to the majority of the council, if not all council members, that given the cost comparison between our current rates and what other jurisdictions who use private haulers can offer, it was a pretty straightforward decision, I think, in the best interest of our ratepayers and our citizens. And so I did review the resolution that is on the agenda tonight. I thought it looked appropriate. Give staff direction to go forward and start receiving some bids and doing the due diligence that's necessary. So I'd be happy to make a motion. If people want to talk further, we can. Move to approve resolution number 2025-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Poulsbo, Washington, initiating a process to outsource solid waste services for the citizens of Poulsbo.
Second.
We have a motion and a second up for discussion. I'm going to lead off on two questions I do have, Diane. Putting on a ratepayer cap, two questions, and I'm sure this will be developed in the course of our work over the year. I can think the ratepayers, number one, thinking, is there residual value to equipment that we've invested in for sale, surplus, or other method. And number two, the workers who have long served steadily 7 days a week, no matter the weather, no matter the holiday, what might come of them?
So, the first question again, sorry.
On the equipment that we've invested in, should we release it? What residual values might we be able to realize or not?
Yeah. So we do have a number of trucks. When you buy them new, they're close to $500,000. They are still useful, and they will be surplus. And so there will be some residual value that goes back to basically back to the citizens. It will go back to the enterprise fund, and then it'll be a benefit either in the negotiation process, which might be that we transfer the equipment to the new provider, or in terms of money that goes back into the enterprise. So that's good. We do have 5 staff in solid waste. We also have some administrative staff that support solid waste. When I talked to an individual that helps with these types of contracts, she said it's very common to have in the contract that the new provider would offer them positions. And that is something we would likely include. She also says it's very unlikely that they move to the new provider. They typically do stay with the jurisdiction. They're very invested here. We do have 3 positions that have been vacant for some time, or we haven't filled. We've been holding those in the event that we do something like this. We also have 3 to 4 people that will be retiring in the next 2 to 3 years. So these are senior maintenance techs. We use senior maintenance techs in water, sewer, storm, and transportation. And so we do see opportunities for these individuals. So I think there's a number of routes that these items could go. And I'm not sure that I've said this publicly before, but we also, this year, we eliminated 1 position in Public Works. That happened in May, and that was part of anticipating that we want to streamline our services. So we no longer have an assistant superintendent position. We chose not to refill that as part of this process. So in the budget process, you're going to see a little bit of reclassification happen that's not nearly as expensive as filling that position, but it's part of the overall big picture plan and the direction that we're headed so that we do the right thing at the right time.
Excellent. That answers this council member's question. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? Mr. Eckert?
Yeah, I'll just say, I was one of the initial loud voices of concern when this came up. My questions have all been answered thoroughly, completely, and to my satisfaction. Diane and Mike answered a lot of them right out of the gate, and then Diane and Rob and Deb follow up in our workshop. So, and for the whole gamut, from what will we do with it, the outside provider, to the equipment, to the costs. I think really if you did, the straight pros and cons, I think, as Gary said, it's a pretty clear decision. The only real con is sort of the small town service feel that we all kind of feel good about. But if we can save people money in the long run, I mean, everything else we do doesn't go that direction, unfortunately. And I would love to be able to save folks money this time. And I think we're doing this smartly. We're doing this at the right time, the right way. You've found a way to take care of the folks that work for us. And so, yeah, I really think we're doing this right. And so all my initial reservations are gone, and I look forward to voting for this.
Excellent clarification. Councilwoman Libdahl.
Yeah, no questions. You've done a great job, but I just want to make it clear that I think I'm speaking for all of us here. The decision we didn't make easily involves our personnel. That was, we know the impact that has, and that part's not easy, but all the other things were very straightforward. So we care about those 5 people plus the other support staff that have been working hard. So Thank you.
Well, and the little dumpsters, but
So again, we have a motion and a second. I'll restate the motion because we've had some discussion on it. Move to approve resolution number 2025-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Poulsbo, Washington, initiating the process to outsource solid waste services for the citizens of Poulsbo. So I'm going to call for the question. Councilwoman Crowe.
Crowe, aye.
Tabor, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Stern, aye.
McVeigh, aye.
Dull eye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, Council. That completes our business agenda. We're going to have a meeting break. I see it's 6:20. Do you think 5 minutes is enough time? So we will reconvene at 6:25 here in council chambers. Thank you, everyone. Let's start with that.
Just with this.
Okay, we're going to call the council back to order. And we're going to move on the workshop agenda portion of the evening. We have a total of 5 items. Item A is a special events report for October 25 from our events coordinator, Lynn Hino. Then we're going to be covering software enterprise resource planning, management software selection consultant. That'll be our finance director, Debbie Boer. Then we're going to have on-call environmental services contract for planning department. That'll be Nicole. We'll move on to housing Kitsap Nordic Cottages management agreement with tenant selection criteria. Our own Kim sitting in the back of the room. And then we'll end with questions and concerns of the council. So that gave time for everybody to get to the table, I think. So let's start with our Parks and Recreation Department and events, special events in October 2025. Take it away.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, council. Good evening, community members. I am subbing in for Lynn this evening. So we have 4 upcoming events for October. The first is the annual October Poulsbo Beer Run. That is on October 4th. That's happening, setting up early in the morning at 8 a.m., taking down at 2. But if you want to participate, it's 9 to 12. So 9 in the morning to 12. It's a fun run between different breweries, around 1,600 people. It's a beloved local event, and they are going to be running from downtown. When I say running, it's visiting the breweries at their own pace, whoever it is. And they'll go from downtown here, and then they'll go up around the Viking statue. There's some restaurants up there, usually donuts, and then they'll head on down to where Echoes is and Rainy Days. And then we have some police officers who help direct traffic. So that's the first event. The second event is the day after, on Sunday, October 5th, and that's the Poulsbo Half Marathon with Orca Running. So that half marathon and 10K showcases some of the best parts of Poulsbo. There's no sidewalks or street closures for this. They have about 550 folks who participate. And this is a legacy event, so it's held over at Muriel Iverson Williams Park. And usually there's about 50 people who spectate. Our third event is with the Kitsap Color Classic, and that's with our Cascade Bicycle Club. So they have run that for a number of years. And that is on Sunday, October 12th. And that is happening early in the morning at 8 a.m. and they take it all down by 4 p.m. It's a fundraiser for Cascade Bicycle Club. As you heard, Cascade Bicycle Club was there also supporting the STO ride. They brought their bike trailer of 18 electric bikes, so it was really helpful. They're using Austin Cavelsted Pavilion as a rest stop. They are aware that there's a structural assessment that's going to be happening there, but the pavilion remains open. And they have about 700 folks who participate in that ride all throughout the area cycling. And our final October event for permitting is on October 31st. And so this is one of my favorites, the Downtown Halloween Trick or Treat with HDPA. And so that's setting up pretty early in the afternoon at 3:30, and then it will tear down at 6:30. But on your calendars, 4 o'clock is when it starts. So if you want to come down and hand out candy or participate or whatever it might be, see what's going on, 4 p.m. That's 500 plus people. If you see it, I know our police department has a booth down there. Last year, Jensen was also closed for traffic. A couple cars did end up getting through, so that's something that has to be worked on in the future. But it was really safe to have all the kids and families walk back and forth on that. So that's Front Street and Jensen Way. And those are our events for October. Any questions?
Just a comment. I just want to say thank you for separating the beer fun run and the Orca running, because they were on the same day last year, and that was rough. So thanks for taking the comments on that.
Thank you. So we're constantly working to improve. Appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah. So is Jensen going to be shut down again this year for the Halloween?
That's the plan.
Okay. I know some of businesses up that direction did not get the word last year, which might be why you had some car issues. Because the property owners got told, but the businesses that are located within the properties didn't. Basically, the owners didn't do a good job passing it on to their tenants. So maybe if we can spread the word a little better this time, that up that way, that might help that problem.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember. We'll follow up with HDPA on that.
Any other questions for Jeff? Not seeing any. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all.
We're going to move on to software enterprises planning, and this will be Debbie Boer, our finance director.
I'm getting the impression that our city administrator is very excited for this one. Let's see. So as we've talked about and put into the budget, the planning to look out and possibly make an improvement in our financial software package. And so what they call is the enterprise resource planning. I have talked to a consultant who 20 years ago helped us go through the process for this selection. They're a great time saver for the department, as well as they bring a high level of expertise in the industry and also a lot of our government partners. And where they were very, very helpful last time is actually negotiating the contract, as they specialize in these software agreements. What our city attorney, who did a great job reviewing, but turned back with 2 comments, turned into a 3-month negotiation with the software vendor as soon as we brought in the experts in this industry. So I did reach out to them and receive the agreement that is included in your packet. So giving a brief overview of the timeline that would happen is the first step is approval of this consulting agreement, which I would like to utilize for their professional services as well as their knowledge in the industry. Once we send the contract with them, we do a citywide kickoff, and all of the departments are invited to be involved in this to talk about the process. This is a huge commitment for every department. Although it's a financial software and finance department will drive much of it, it is a citywide agreement because every city participates in utilizing that financial software, as well as access and also data input. They meet with each of the departments and talk about a needs assessment. They develop the RFP based on the city's processes and what the needs are and what will help us utilize in the newest enhancements out there in the software industry. They develop the RFP based on those needs assessment. And then once they come back, all of the RFPs are developed, they take their level of expertise, they evaluate the RFPs with our needs and come up with the short list on who we would like to be demoed with the software and continue on in that selection process. And it's all suggested. We still are in control of it. If there's somebody we want to talk to that's not in that needs, we would follow up and have further conversations, but they do use their levels to come at that. They then help us do a demo by the vendors, and this is probably a 1 or 2 day event, and the software companies come out and demo their software and answer questions. All departments are invited to this, as well as we do a soft requirement that if you are utilizing that module, please attend these. It is we have to have every party invested in this. And then once we've gone out with the demos, we will get together and just make a decision and then begin negotiations for the contract. When a decision is made on that RFP, we will be coming forward and talking about a budget. The budget does include the heaviest cost of any software implementation is the implementation. That means we will build into the budget overtime, casual labor, and then obviously the ongoing, which would be cloud-based, would be a subscription, but the heaviest load is up front for training and for travel for the trainers, as well as all of the overtime associated. So the city's obligation when we do this software is all departments, as I said, need to participate in the assessment. We want input from everybody, as everybody is a user. This is last time we went for a software update was in 2005 with a live beta 2006. So it's a 20-year investment, and it's a 20-year investment that hopefully reaches all the departments and the public as well. So all departments participate in the training. We set up schedules and implementation schedules, and then the schedule will be developed for the training with detailing the affected department and the related schedules. The city's implementation team, we will have internal and primarily the finance department,
And as much as the city administrator would like to participate, we will be there for every portion of the implementation, whether we utilize it or not. But then definitely all the departments will utilize their specific purposes if it's needed. So the entire process, was hoping, but I was told I was much too optimistic, was hoping for a go live date of January 1st of 27. They said that is pretty optimistic, and it usually is about an 18 to 24 month process, especially with the negotiations and the RFP process. The hopes is once we go live is possibly we can phase in some of the modules going forward. The goal is to look for an enterprise resource solution, but I will say is our mind is open to what they say is selecting the best of the breed. Possibly one software is much stronger in utility billing and customer interfacement, as long as they all talk to each other, and that's the biggest part. The best, we're small enough, we're hoping for a one solution that will handle it all, but we're still open-minded to the best solution that serves the city and the citizens. What we will stand strong at is we will not be building a software with customizations. We will change the city's process to meet the software process. What that does is that is an investment in your future. So as the software goes through updates, you can easily go through the update. What we struggled with our current software is we don't have customizations. However, a large customer base stuff has customizations, which stops and slows down any of your improvements and enhancements to that software. So we are very strong in that, and that is becoming much more the industry standard. Change your process, do not customize the software to match what you would like it to do. Change your process to meet the software and also meet the legal requirements. We also will continue to look at what part of the RFP process is. There are different packages out there for our capital project planning. There's packages out there for financial statement preparations, budget presentations, there's workflows, we have a different software for our park and rec and our records management. And the big question is, how does our software integrate with those programs? I understand software companies are very protective of their gateway into their software, but one of the struggles we have too is our software has completely refused to talk to, for instance, merchant services. They will not allow different companies to come into it. And I will say is that's not just this software, it's every software. We struggle with it with the other softwares. And I get it, they have to program around it, but that is some of the struggles is we want to be able to have some flexibility so we are not forced into using a program or a provider that doesn't provide the exceptional customer service. Primarily where my struggles are is merchant service, credit card processing. It is a nightmare sometimes to get those to talk to each other. And once you get locked in, the fees significantly increase that you have no control over. So those are the things that we're trying to look for and goals going to the future. Reasons why we're upgrading: newer technologies out there, enhanced capabilities. We want consistent updates and enhancements. User company support. That is a huge one that we're looking for. We want other agencies in Washington to be utilizing this software. We're government. We share all our knowledge. We share everything. And when you are one or two of the customers in the only ones in the state, you are not a very strong person to the party. Also, our software is, they do have a new package out, but I did say is when I went to their user conference, 80% of that conference was geared towards public safety. So I want it where they're focusing on our needs and not the other needs. So that will be a very strong, because your users are the strongest group for enhancements and improvements. So that's one of my goals in looking at this. Again, looking at the integration with other platforms, we want more customer online capabilities. You would not believe we have right now email billing available, but it is very clunky, and we've done it just to serve the need for the citizens, but it's not a great package. So that is the hope, is we get some more customer online capabilities, make it user friendly for our citizens, and then user interactions from us. We obviously want a good support system that we can call and support ourselves in improvements. So what you have before you is a consultant agreement. It's pricey. It's about $93,000. That includes sales tax. They just changed the sales tax rules at the state. So I'm assuming this is one of the services that now will be taxed that hadn't been sales taxed in the past. So it brings that cost up a little bit. The budget, you did allocate $200,000 in 25.
and in 26 to start this process. And the end of it, once we get to a contract, we will be amending the budget, but I believe that $200,000 should at least cover that consultant. We might have to move it out of a capital fund to an operating fund, but there was dollars set aside for this. And then once this would be, the agreement would be on the consent agenda next week. I did push back a little bit on the consultant. We did remove some of the simple charges. It didn't change the price a lot. And if we start really picking it apart, then we start not getting the services that we need. And once we sign that, the first thing we knew is we would do a citywide kickoff meeting and do the needs assessment. And with that, if there's any questions, suggestions, comments, I'm here for you.
Mr. Tabor, then Mr. McVeigh.
This is very exciting. I don't want to get myself into too much trouble, but this is where my Amazon passed. I helped sell internally HCM, Human Capital Management, and CRM, Customer Resource Management software internally to other, like AWS, to other things. We had to sell it and get the VPs to buy our idea versus using external software. So I would compete with like similar companies. So when you're doing this and you get to especially the shortlist and the demos, I would love to be involved and help with that and help. I did a lot of like business requirements gathering, and it was all custom, unfortunately, everything. So not going custom. That part is separate, but then with my council questions, more of like, do we have any idea of how much a ERP system is going to cost annually? And then, because just looking at like this, right, the consultant fee, and then kind of thinking about that in terms of, but then it also, I thought as I was going through that, it makes sense because it's been so long since we've upgraded to anything. We're kind of starting from almost zero.
Right. Currently we pay, I would love to have you at the table. I welcome any level of expertise as long as my boss, the city administrator, doesn't have any objections. I am wonderful with that. Any input's great. It helps bring out questions that I don't think of. As far as the cost, we pay about $74,000 a year for an annual license. That is, we are hosted. We are not on the cloud. We are hosted. When I've checked other prices, annual licenses, I'm seeing about $100,000 a year is what I'm seeing. I've been quoted a really big one by one of our large companies, just off the cuff, is what he was telling me. It was like 120.
Is it Microsoft?
No, it was not Microsoft. It was Workday.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they're
Workday.
too large for us,
I know.
and he was only quoting, I think, like the GL side of it, not even the human resources or any of that.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing just by talking to my neighbors, I could be close, I could be far. Those are just off the top of my head.
And then it's like how many modules and what's included in each module from each company, because it could be less modules from one company versus another.
Correct. Absolutely.
Exciting.
Yes.
So in the future, it's kind of unknown because it could be 50 to 300 right now until we figure out exactly what the city needs.
Probably. And we are a little bit unique in that we are a smaller government, but we do gap reporting, whereas a lot of softwares for cities our size are doing cash reporting. So we have to make sure the software meets that standard.
Thank you.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. Deb, I'm trying to reflect back on our budget process. On the summary for this item, it says that the 93,000 is not included in our current budget. And I'm just wondering, I'm trying to remember why we didn't do that. Did we not know that we were going to need the services of the consultant? I know you referenced we'd set aside 200,000, but that's kind of for the software itself, right? Can you just help me kind of clarify
What is set aside is $200,000 a year for you guys said for the next couple of years to start the process for the software. So what we've done is we have transferred that to a capital fund and put it in reserves. So in essence, it's not put into the expenditure budget. However, you reserve that, and I would assume that 200,000 would fund part of that study. Now, do I think that 200,000 is enough to cover the whole process? No. And I think we needed to add to it. You said 200,000 in 25 and 200,000 in 26. So right now, the council over the next 2 years has delegated at least 400,000 to a software improvement. What that means is we've reserved it and we would need to do a budget amendment to pull it out of the reserves to put it to expenditure. So it's a little bit of confusing knowledge.
Okay, so some of those funds could be used to help pay
Yes.
this, correct? Okay, I wanted to make sure that we weren't necessarily taking sort of a $93,000 hit we didn't anticipate. So, okay, thank you. That makes me feel a little better.
Mr. Newell.
Yeah, I think Debbie, you're getting a little too precise we as a group decided that we need to invest in a new software solution to manage our city. And we budgeted 200,000 this year, 200,000 last year. I think the 93,000 is within the bounds of what we intended. You have to start. And so the starting fee seems to be reasonable. I would say that this is part of what we anticipated needing to get started with. Reality is, as we get farther into it, we'll refine what we need from a budget perspective, what we need in 27 to go live. So back to Gary, I didn't even pick that up. I just assumed it was a yes.
Yeah, well,
I would say, yes, this was our intent.
Okay.
It's those little details.
Maybe it's the difference between sort of capital and non-capital. Anyway, so, okay.
Yeah, just,
Yes,
right.
all right.
So we have money reserved. We just have to put it into the expenditure side of it. Thank you for those questions. I appreciate it.
Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, I think intent is the key. And I like the consultant idea, even if we didn't talk about that in the budget process, because again, we're moving forward with intention, not just grabbing software that seems to fit the bill. Because like you said, this is a 20-year expenditure. So, getting someone and part of, I really pushed at the time to want to have this in there is because, well, one, we did a lot of improvements in other areas and not so much in this area, but also is that the end goal, I think, is to get software that makes your day-to-day job easier and more efficient. And so I think that this process you've outlined is a good, thoughtful way to move into that to achieve that goal, is that we're not just, okay, let's grab new software. It fits the bill. Oh, we think, no, we're going to make sure that, and in lots of areas and integration. I did I did send in a question and ask about the records management piece. If we want to pull that in now, and really within light of, even if we don't, just that whatever we do later for records management integrates. Because again, that scenario we don't have, it's being picked up by current staff, and whatever we can do from a software side to make that role easier, it puts off the conversation of having to add a person to do that job. Because right now, existing staff is making it work, versus a whole nother person, which is even more expensive. So, no, I like it. I think this is the right way to do it.
Which is an exactly reason why I'd like to use the experts in the field. No offense to our council member who did sell the software, but salesmen will tell you it does a lot of things. And when you go to the expert, you don't find it as simple as they say. So
I'll go ahead. Any other comment from the table right now? I'll just add, I was there for the Sun committee selection and implementation, and it started off strong, and then it was an adventure with patches and service and backup and trips here and trips there. And we would hope for a strong start out of the gate. My only other comment, and Diane Linney has had to put up with me when I accompanied her and Josh to the American Public Works Association for our award a year ago, which he incessantly heard from me wandering around the vendor area, was project modeling, followed by project modeling, followed by project modeling. I would like to see us be able to have a robust project modeling component. In our financial reporting, it's a lot of Excel spreadsheet and bar and pie graphs, but we can do much better, because the major way we're going to communicate with a council is with a very good storybook, just like is used on engineering and public works projects. And I know the financial reporting can be used along those lines. So I'm just very encouraging of project modeling to be able to assist the council in telling the story of the budget rather than just the numbers of the budget.
Right. And I believe you were referencing the two different types of software. One is capital project planning, which is your CIP, which is what we would hope. You've already approved it. We just haven't moved forward because we wanted to integrate. And I believe our public works director put into their budget request to look at the actual project budget, like, to do that type. So covering two different functions. So you will see that come forward as well. And Diane can correct me if I'm wrong. So.
We do have some project management software in the budget request that we have been using on projects. We're also working with planning on the interface between real project information and GIS, and there's a lot of opportunity for us to improve.
So
Thank
this
you,
will be,
Debbie.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate the support. It's going to be a long process, so I appreciate it. And you will see this agreement on your consent agenda next week.
Thank you.
And just publicly to allay Debbie's concerns, this is a team sport. She won't be doing this alone. Every department will be there, and I'll be there alongside her as well. Because as you all said, we really have to dial in our business requirements first and then figure out how we go from there. And we're not going to find one thing to rule them all, or
I like that.
you know. So we will have to be very mindful of that as we go forward.
Well said. Any other comment? We're going to move on to on-call environmental services contract for the planning department, our own Nicole Coleman.
Good evening. It's nice to see you all. It's been a minute. So I'm just here on behalf of Heather because she's on a plane right now to enjoy sunshine and vacation for a few days. Lucky her. But this is our continuing on-call environmental consultant. So this is the consultant that we use primarily for third-party peer reviews when we have environmental reports submitted for development projects. And we provided an RFP. We had 5 submittals. We went through a rating system and landed on the company that we have been using for the last 15 years, which we were thankful for, but we did go through the proper process because we have an established relationship and they're really great to work with, and we would just like to continue that.
What's the name of the company?
Gretty Associates, but they're under the name of Fallon now. Yeah.
So
Right.
I have a question, Nicole. Take
Sure.
advantage of being here. Not on the environmental, but on the planning itself. I know we've been consulting with Carla Boughton Consulting for some time, and she's taken on other work. How or when or where do we replace that, or don't we replace that because we have in-house strength?
That's a great question. Carla is going to be the planning director of the city of Sequim starting October 1st, I believe. And she's going to stay on our casual labor to help with some things here and there, but she's going to be busy up in Sequim. So ultimately, Heather's been working on a 5-year work plan that looks at where we can make that work without Carla. So,
Okay.
Which we always do. That's what planning does.
Well, let us know what support you need.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nicole?
Okay.
We're racing right through everything, folks. We're going to move on to Kim Hendrickson addressing Housing Kitsap, Nordic Cottages Management Agreement, and importantly, the tenant selection criteria. Kim. I know there's been a lot of interest in that tenant selection component and a lot of exposure online too.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm here today to talk about 2 documents related to the Nordic Cottages. I'll be saying some words about the tenant selection plan agreement and the property management agreement. They're both in your packets for tonight. Just to be clear at the front end, you'll only need to approve one of those 2 agreements. The tenant selection plan is an internal document for Housing Kitsap. I just wanted to share it with you tonight and have the opportunity to talk about it if you had any questions, and let the public have the opportunity to hear about what the selection criteria is for the cottages and some of the continued plans for occupancy. So I'll talk about the 2 documents, but maybe a quick word of introduction first about the application process from our perspective as a city. We made the Recovery Resource Center available as a site where people who wanted to apply for Nordic cottages could come in late August. I'm very glad we did so. We got to meet some new people that weren't familiar with our center. It was clear to me, as I'm sure is common knowledge to all of you, that there are many people in our community, particularly older people, that don't feel comfortable with online applications. So to have a place where people could come in person, work with staff, sign something on a piece of paper, do things in a more humane way, I think was very helpful for many of the people applying. I hear from Housing Kitsap that there were approximately 110 total applications for our 8 units at Nordic Cottages. Of those 110, many of them were not deemed eligible for being on the wait list because of issues with the application. So they're sorting through all of the applications now. I would expect at the end of the day, there'll be around 80 legitimate applications for our 8 spots, and they'll take the next few weeks sorting through those 80. And now I'll say a few words about the eligibility process. As you might have seen in the document in your packet today, there's a difference between eligibility and prioritization. In terms of eligibility, to be eligible to live in the Nordic Cottages, you need to be 55 or older, or be an adult with a disability. You need to be at an income level that's 50% or less of area median income. There are a couple of criminal charges that make you ineligible to live at the cottages. Those are listed in the document. And finally, at least one person in the house has to be a citizen or somebody that's legally able to live in the United States. So that's just the baseline eligibility. There's a difference between eligibility and who Housing Kitsap will be giving priority to. So once you pass that eligibility threshold, priority is then given for people that have the lowest incomes. 30% of AMI will be preferred over people that are making 50% of area median income.
Kim, that begs the question, can you give us a round number? What's 50% and what 30% might look like in Kitsap County?
Yeah, I memorized 30% for one person, and it's $29,000. Rob, could you help me with 50%? My math isn't that great. Around 45. Okay, thank you.
And that's gross income?
It's gross income, correct. And there are asset considerations as well. If somebody has a house but is making 50% of area median income, they'll be disqualified because the assets are counted as well. So again, there's a basic eligibility, but then prioritization will be given to our lower income applicants. And this is important also to applicants that live or work in the Poulsbo area. So that's being determined by zip codes. People that live in a Suquamish zip code, a Keyport zip code, or a City of Poulsbo zip code will have prioritization on that eligibility list. And I know that was very important to council when we've been discussing the Nordic Cottages project. We're looking to help people that are being displaced from their homes in this area and using the cottages as a way to benefit our community. Finally, a priority is given to people that are paying over 50% of their monthly income in rent. That's a category of people that are called rent burdened. So again, I'm saying a lot of things that are in your packet, but there's an eligibility threshold. But then after that eligibility threshold, there's a very clear priority given to people that live or work in Poulsbo, are very low income, and are rent burdened. Also in that document, it's very long and very complex. I see how carefully Housing Kitsap has thought about the rights of tenants, the grievance procedures that are available, the very careful procedures that happen before somebody is asked to leave the property. I think it's a good resource for the city to have just to understand what's going on at the Nordic Cottages.
Mr. Newell.
Just since you brought that up, the origins of this property management agreement, this is from Kitsap Housing.
It sure is, yeah.
And they operate other properties under this, so this is not unique to us. This is what they're used to doing.
Kind of, sorta. It's based on criteria that they use in other properties, but there are tailored sections to us. That local preference is unique to the Nordic Cottages and one that we specifically.
Yeah, and that part's fine. I just was getting into the property management piece of the ins and outs, the various pieces. This isn't going to be something, oh, we never did that before. We didn't realize it was in there. This is standard operating, effectively standard practices.
You bet. Both for the tenant selection plan and for the property management agreement. These are basically standard fare that are used in their other properties, with a few exceptions.
Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. Kim, thanks for being here. I read both of the documents in the packet thoroughly, and it reinforced for me that I think it was a very wise decision on our part to elicit the assistance of Housing Kitsap in
Yes,
this
indeed.
matter, and rather than trying to do this internally. So, and so I was impressed with the thoroughness of it. I support the criteria. I'm glad that I or we as a city necessarily don't have to make the decisions on who gets those 8 spots. And I appreciate the assistance to Housing Kitsap and their professionalism. Thank you.
They've been a wonderful partner. If I may just say a couple of words about the property management agreement, and then I'd welcome your questions. There are actually 2 changes to the property management agreement as you're seeing in your packet tonight. There's been a little back and forth about the indemnification clause of the contract. There'll be a slight revision to how the indemnification language appears. I've asked Administrator Gelder if we could bring this back to the business agenda next week so I can go over that slightly modified indemnification language in some detail. The other change is something that I learned today or was brought to my attention today during an informal tour of the cottages. One of the council members asked if the plants would be maintained by Housing Kitsap. That resulted in a productive conversation with Housing Kitsap where they are going to maintain the plants, but it wasn't in the agreement just as an oversight. So we're going to add that to the agreement as well, just to ensure that our landscaping is taken care of. It looks so good and they have every intention to maintain it, but we're going to put it in the contract.
How does this work as a rider on our insurance, or what is the method for covering this? Because it's a little different type of property.
You bet.
And it's residential 24/7.
You bet.
So it's a different liability.
I'm going to turn now to Deb Boer, who I think has important things to say, both about insurance and about costs to the city of having this agreement with Housing Kitsap. Deb, if you wouldn't mind.
What's the insurance question again? What was the question about insurance?
How will this attach to our existing coverage? Is it a rider? And it's a different beast than we normally have coverage for, because we have tenants, residents 24/7. And so the liability is much different than some of our other operations.
So the liability, the city will cover, it's our property, we will cover the property and the liability. However, that is only as the property. The tenants are encouraged, they cannot be mandated, but are strongly encouraged to get renter's insurance. So that all of the contents that a renter has is not covered under our insurance. We cover the building, we cover if something happens to the property.
And the agreement was reviewed by WCIA and our contact there. So WCIA has an entire manual of the different types of liability clauses, indemnification language, et cetera, that they'd like to see incorporated into it. So our representative, I think it was Farah, was actually the person who looked at the agreement to make sure it met all of their requirements as well.
Just curious as an example within that, a subset question. Somebody trips, falls, says it's an equipment or design failure. Where do we sit in that world since we hosted the thing?
I think as with any city-owned property infrastructure, then we work with our insurance carrier. If a claim is submitted, then we go through the normal channels.
Rick?
So I'm glad that it has in there about the assets as well. Because we wouldn't want somebody to there and then have a house somewhere that they're renting out.
That's right.
So I'm glad that that's covered. I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it, but then I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely not a situation we want to have going on. And then I'll just say, I'm not surprised at the number of applicants compared to the number of slots we have. But I'm disheartened that we only are going to be able to serve 8 and we have that many. So I would suggest, we already talked about a retreat coming up, and some of that retreat being focused, or a lot of that retreat being focused on priorities and funding. I I know that we start talking about the next, we have money coming in from the funding. And I think we should be looking at the next project because we know how long this one took. And hopefully the next one will not take nearly as long, but we need to get working on at least discussing what we want to do, how we want to do it, and get the next one going because the need is there and the need is not going to go away.
Pam.
It's beautiful to see this come to fruition and, on that personal side of having experienced housing Kitsap, the mutual self-help building program, it was a very enriching experience. While at the same time, I'm looking at the document and there were some surprises that you discovered, along the way, that not being able to have guests for an extended period of time, and folks would, some folks would report you if you had someone in your space longer than the allotted time. I see that, in this document that it shows that you need to get written notice, like if you wanted to have someone visit for the holidays or something like that. So my question is this is the document with Housing Kitsap looks like it's 69 pages. Do they, help those who would occupy the space kind of, get some key bullet points, as to these are the things that, we will support you in, or these are the need to know things, the guest thing, when I found out as a surprise and having family visit, it's like that was a bit of a surprise. And then also, parking, isn't there some parking where the library is at that some of the guests will be able to use, or are you aware of that? There's parking where the library is at that does belong to the city?
Yeah, as I recall, and it's been a minute since I've talked about the parking issue, in exchange for our use of the 10 spots at Gateway, the city has use of 2 spots at the library.
Wow. Okay. I'm surprised that it's just 2. I thought it was more than that. Okay. And then another question is, say you get 30 applicants that are actually meet the criteria. And obviously you
More
don't
than
have,
that,
yeah, more than that. Then what's the next step to vet through that? Is it going to be a lottery or?
Oh, great question. Yeah. And let me backtrack for a second, Councilmember. Let me get you better information about the guest parking. I know that Gateway had offered informally to allow guests to be in other Gateway slots. Before I just say there's 2 slots at the library, it's been a minute since I looked at that agreement. Let me get confirmation on that for you. I really appreciate your suggestion about maybe a quicker user guide to the regulations in the 69-page document, and I'll certainly bring that up with Housing Kitsap. Sorry, where are we?
Lottery.
The lottery. The preference is given to time submitted. So if everybody's equally eligible, if there are 60 people equally eligible and the priority qualifications are all the same, first application then gets the preference. Thank you.
Rick.
Yeah, Pam's statements made me think of something. Because we said this, seniors and those with disabilities, and we know, like you said, seniors don't necessarily like to do these things online, and I'm sure that this 69-page document is going to be presented to them online. Also, disabilities come in all shapes and sizes. I don't know what Housing Kitsap's normal process this is, but it might be worth asking the question if they partner with the state agencies, DDA, for example, for the disability folks, to have someone to help those potential residents navigate this, maybe to explain things to them or to help them through, so that we don't end up with someone signing something that they then later do not understand.
Go back to Councilmember Newell's point. They've done this many times before, and they do have a track record serving with seniors and individuals with disabilities. So I would imagine they have excellent systems in place, but I really appreciate the topic coming up?
Yeah.
Because it's something I can learn more about.
It's worth asking them the question
bet.
so that we know, because it is such a small property, they might not necessarily be thinking about having those services available
Yep.
for this at that time.
Yep.
Just because they're used to doing much bigger. So
And one other thing I can say to perhaps reassure you all a bit is that the property manager that works already in Poulsbo on a couple of different properties is going to be the property manager at Nordic Cottages. She was on site today. Her name is Sonia. She's terrific. And I know that she makes herself very much available as a human resource to residents. So I appreciate these comments. I'll follow up, but I suspect Housing Kitsap has some good systems in place.
Britt?
Sonia's amazing.
Yeah, I just want to, I don't have questions at this point, but I was on the special tour because unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it to the ribbon cutting, which I'm very, very upset about. But I was able to see it today and it looks great. And I felt like everyone who was there were quite a few of us. There's just a lot of pride in it, that it got done and can be done, and what are everybody else's excuses? So anyway, I'm really happy.
Kim, any additional information?
One final comment. Again, I'm bringing this back to business so we can talk about that slightly revised indemnification provision and that little clause about landscaping. I made one error as I was doing the agenda item tonight. I said that this had no expense attached to it. That is incorrect.
Yeah.
There is an expense attached to it, and I think it will require a budget amendment in 2025 as well as being incorporated in the 2026 budget. Debbie, I will turn to you. Could you make an estimate about what kind of budget item we'll be looking at with this agreement?
So let me just assure you, because we did a lot of homework on the financial side of this. Part of my concern is these are funded by federal coupons. So I reached out actually to our state federal auditor and had a conference call with them as well as the statement reporting to make sure that we were not a subrecipient of those, and we are not. So that takes a little bit of reporting off of our edge. We do have to report all of the revenues associated with and all the expenditures, and we are hiring the housing authority strictly as a project manager. So in your agreement, you'll see where they are going to be charging a fee for property management. They also are asking us to submit immediately a $20,000 payment in order to put it aside for ongoing maintenance reserve. That's part of the federal requirements as the federal grants. And then they're going to be building a replacement reserve for capital replacement items. And what they're going to do is they're going to submit every month. They're going to set up 3 bank accounts. They're going to submit every month their bank statements, their reconciliations, and a profit and loss statement. And then I believe every quarter they will be submitting to us any funds that exceed the rent revenues less the operating expenses, and that will be helped to make the debt payment that city's covering. So what we're waiting for to happen is we are waiting to find out what this agreement was. And I think since we are going to be collecting rent in November and December, we're going to have to recognize the $20,000 payment to the housing authority, as well as the rent income and the expenditures through the end of the year in order to do our full GAAP reporting. So we'll be doing an amendment to accommodate that. And then in the 26th, now we will have a better projection of what the revenues are and the expenses are. And I did meet also with the finance manager at the housing authority. So we are all on the same page as to how the reporting will go. And mind you, so the agreement's been written to that, but we also have the ability to adjust if it doesn't work. They're very flexible. This is their line of business. So I think I was very happy to know we were not a subrecipient, and knowing how to report it and have the experts from the state office on the line with me. Actually did a Zoom call with both of them. So we're set to go forward, but that's what the budget amendment will incorporate.
2 questions I have. So this will not create a separate federal audit like we've had with the Johnson Way project?
This funding will not create a federal audit. However, we are still exceeding a threshold by the Knoll Road project going on in 25 that we will still require a single audit. A single audit is required when the agency receives over $1 million in federal funds, and we will exceed that with this project. But the rent and the coupons do not fall under our federal funds, so it will not be audited under this program.
And then you speaking to the project tonight brings to mind Is there going to be any kind of indirect allocation associated with what cash flow is realized, such as we're paying housing Kitsap for finance and other support function within the other departments?
We haven't addressed that, but it's certainly something we can look at in the future. We had never incorporated that in. We felt it was a cost of doing business for the government and leaving those funds, but it's definitely that's something we can look into if we need to.
Mr. Tabor.
Another question for Deb. Get that mic ready. We discussed early on the eventually the debt would be able to be serviced with Section 8 vouchers. Do we have a year where that would offset the cost?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question. Sorry.
The Section 8 vouchers.
Yeah.
Used to offset and pay down the debt.
The rent. Uh-huh. Oh, no, the Section 8 vouchers are, this is where I was becoming concerned because those vouchers, they normally issue to the individuals. This project is different. This project is, these coupons are actually issued to the units. And that's when I got concerned because the city owns that. So it supplements the rent and we will collect that in as rental revenue grants for, so all of that will come in as rent revenue and the tenants will pay whatever difference they have to in there, but it does not offset the debt. What we're using forward to the debt is any residual rent over expenditures, as well as that of sales tax from the affordable housing to make that debt payment.
And so the coupons is the same thing that you're referring to as the vouchers, right?
Yeah, they're
Correct.
project-based vouchers.
Project-based, okay. And so that's covering, it's essentially filling the rest of the rent gap that would be expected on like market rate, right? That's right.
Correct.
Okay, so, and those are on day one, or is that a program that's?
Yeah, it'll start as soon as they start renting them out. And we are lucky to have the housing authority because I have not had to work with those Section 8 vouchers and I don't have the desire to. So that's why we're utilizing their resources.
Yeah, I remember this time last year when I initially went through my concerns with Kim, it was like an hour and a half. Yeah, seems like housing Kitsap's expertise is just this wouldn't be possible otherwise. So a great partnership there.
Britt? Yep. Any other questions at this point? Kim, you want to wrap it up and repeat to us what's going to be on the business agenda?
Will do. So again, we'll be looking at the property management agreement between the city and Housing Kitsap during business agenda next Wednesday. I will not be discussing the tenant selection plan after tonight. I just included it into your packets as a resource. So see you next week. Thank you.
Well organized, Kim. Which brings us to questions and concerns of the council as well as future agenda items. Who would like to take a first swing? Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. So I had a couple of residents hit me up Saturday while I was at the Pride Festival, complaining again. We've had some complaints in the past, and now I'm getting some fresh complaints about the intersection of 6th and Hostmark. When you come up 6th and you are turning right or left onto Hostmark at that three-way intersection, the sign for the Hostmark apartments really blocks your vision of the traffic that's coming. And the sign looks to me to only be maybe 6 feet off the road. And I alerted to Diane and to Rob, and I would appreciate if staff could look into that, if that sign is too close to the right, it is in the right of way. And if we might be able to ask the owner of the apartment, Hostmark Apartments, if they could please move their sign back away from the roadway to improve the vision at that intersection. It's pretty bad. You really can't see around the sign unless you drive into, you encroach into the crosswalk. Diane said that that's actually allowed, but I don't think that's particularly safe, especially with quite a bit of traffic going, pedestrians going to Gateway Church and to the farmers market on Saturdays there. So I would really appreciate staff taking a look at that and reporting back to us.
Thank you.
And Mr.
Newell.
Same issue. This has come up multiple times. It is a current, I guess in that standpoint, just an update. If you go up to 8th and Hostmark, the gateway sign, same thing. If you're trying to take a right-hand turn, you can't see traffic coming up Hostmark without getting it into the road. And so both of those are same issue, I would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions and concerns of the council? I have a question for Debbie. Going back to solid waste, but it also touches on the topic I just brought up with housing, the Nordic cottages, which is the method by which we in the general fund support enterprises and other outside activities and can consider, if not recoup our costs. So my first swing of the bat is simply when we spin off solid waste, which we indicated tonight is our intention to explore, what's the impact on the finance department?
Workload impact, it will be an impact, but not much because we still have a utility billing going out every month. And Public Works fields a lot of the garbage questions. It will definitely impact as we're changing garbage can size and some of the phone calls. But I think also miscellaneous billing and dumpsters will be minimized. But we've been trying to reduce some of that workload and streamline much of it. Where we are impacted is the indirect allocation, the amount of money that the solid waste pays. And when I've worked with Diane on that is we are talking about when we put out the RFP is putting requirements. The first thing we'd like to do is we'd like to bump up the utility tax to 12% and tell them to propose on that to match our other city utilities. That would be an offset to those would come into the general fund and offset some of that loss of that indirect allocation. And also many cities are passing on an additional fee because to support your streets, because one of the hardest things on your city streets are the garbage trucks. So we have some ways to mitigate some of that loss. And then we actually are going to look at the whole picture and determine where that hot hit is. But we have taken that all into account.
Yeah, and that's just brings up the general point, and I'm sure you're careful about this anyway. When we take on new projects and programs, is screening for indirect impact and at least acknowledging if we're choosing through the general fund to support, or are we going to recoup, and make sure our filters are up to date for analyzing that for council in general.
And a little bit of difference between when you refer to the cottages and the indirect allocation for the solid waste. The solid waste is a utilities program and it's supported by the revenues. And so since it's run almost as a type of a business operation, the expenses have to be accounted for the administrative work you do. For the cottages, it's a government operation. So the government taxes. Now, can we charge some of our time directly to that affordable housing program if we get involved with administering it? Possibly, but why we're using the project management group of the Housing Authority is to eliminate the work on the finance end of it that we have to do. But it's much more reasonable for the city to absorb the Housing Authority because it is a government operation and not a business type of operation.
Questions and concerns of the committee? Not seeing any. Any future agenda items come to mind that we have not already put on our batting order? Rhiannon, do you have handy what are our pending future agenda items at this time?
You'll have to give me a minute to pull it up. It should be in your packet as well if you want to take a look at it.
So if there aren't any other questions and concerns, we're going to do continued public comment. And so I'm going to call for any public comment this evening. If so, state your name and residence, and you have 3 minutes, and we look forward to hearing from you. Not seeing any public, but only civilians and war veterans of the municipal process, I will call one more time. Are there any public comments to be received tonight before we adjourn? Not seeing any. Let's go around the table one more time. Mayor and council comments. I have nothing else. Britt? Mr. McVeigh is recreating. Pam, any comment? Doug?
Motion to adjourn?
No, there's a comment. I have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we stand adjourned. 7:30. Not bad.